Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Arijit Guha. I lead the Medical Affairs Organization for Polymedicure, and we welcome you all to this webinar. Today, we are going to cover the topic Communication and Interpersonal Skills in Nursing by the speaker, Mr. Bhaskar K. Shirati. So, before I introduce the speaker, let me also bring to your notice the background, the importance of the background for today's topic. So communication, as we all understand, there's great power in communication. Use of an effective communication, interpersonal communication strategies by nurses in both personal and professional settings may reduce stress, decrease preventable errors, improve job satisfaction, and overall the quality of life. As you all know, communication can happen in various forms: verbal, non-verbal, written. It can either take the form of a formal communication or informal communication. It can happen at various levels: upward communication, downward communication, horizontal communication, at across different age groups. So one has to be more aware about what goes into making an effective communication strategy. And the more we are aware about these things, the better an effective communicator we would be. Um, and an important association between communication and how we perceive those communications is emotions. So as a result or as an outcome of either a good communication or bad communication, we can become angry, sad, anxious, hurt, embarrassed, happy. So being more aware about what we communicate, how do we understand others' communication is a very good a way um, to control emotions, to have a check on that, and that's a choice that we have with us. So that's how important this topic is, how it contributes to our well-being as a whole, and to our professional career also, how it can give a more empowerment and lead us to a more successful and rewarding career. So without much ado, let me also introduce the speaker. Mr. Bhaskar is a senior manager, corporate nursing team and strategy planning, Healthcare Global Enterprise Limited. He is the vice president for Critical Care Nurses Society chapter. He is a NABH assessor for SHCO and pre-entry level. Is a member of Karnataka Nurses Association and a certified internal auditor from Association of Healthcare Providers in India. He is a member managing council of INS Infusion Nurses Society Gujarat chapter. He has done his post-graduation, that's MSc Nursing from KLE Institute of Nursing Sciences. So we welcome you, Mr. Bhaskar, to this forum. But before we hand over the session to you, let me also remind all the participants that there are two options on their screens. One is the Q&A option, wherein you can type in your queries for the speaker, and we'll bring it to his attention towards the end of the session. Or if you have any general feedback or any comments regarding your experience about the webinar, you can put it in the chat section. So with that, I think it's over to you, Mr. Bhaskar, for the topic.
Yeah, namaste everyone, and I would like to thank Polymed for this opportunity. We were trying a lot, and Dr. Arjit and Mitesh were constantly back on having a lecture from Gujarat region. In fact, it's a pleasure to be here and among so many participants. First of all, I would like to thank all the nurses and all the paramedics across this country and world for being there, standing in front. It would be my duty to thank you guys. It's a small word, but thank you once again. Has been perceived, and then the reactions, counter reactions. You have seen the consequences. It does matter. Okay, there's a proverb that says that words once spoken and heart once broken can't be fixed, and it's very sensitive.
Mr. Bhaskar, I think there is some audio issue. Could you put on your maybe headphones? That would be better, I guess. Yeah, there are some issues.
Can you hear me now? Is it good?
Yeah, maybe a louder volume. Maybe the speaker has to,
Yeah.
microphone has to.
Now is
Yeah,
it fine?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So moving to the topic, communication, let me share a small PPT that I've worked on.
It's still, there is some sort of cracking of your voice.
Is it fine now?
This appears to be okay, but it cracks a bit.
Okay. Into it. Anyways, my apologies for the technical things that's happening over here. Again. Okay, so let me go back, why communication I picked up was in, I've been visiting almost 2 years. I've been visiting lot many centers. I am a part of internal audit. I go for teaching around, training around task force. We do a lot of NABH and all. I've seen there's there's this lack of communication that runs across the nursing field, especially with those there wherever there's a generation gap between the whole nurses that we have who are basically either in charges or heads or supervisors. I don't know, they have this challenge of understanding or communicating. Communication for next 30 or 40 minutes, and we can have a question and answers done. This is my experience that what I'm sharing, and what I've implemented, which is and plus the last 8 years as far as people look into, I'm happy what I'm doing, or where I've reached in my field today. And I guess it's only that I'm trying to communicate with everyone at the lowest level possible, and I also try to see whether they perceive what I want to basically want to tell them, where they're getting the point what they want really understand. We all have customers in healthcare system. We have still customers that and that starts from we also have associates and empanelment agencies, which again consist of doctors, your peers, nurses, there are lab, paramedical staff, you have a front desk office, a whole lot of bunch of people that work together. Now we communicate to them daily basis, whether it's patient care or not patient care or direct communication, indirect communication. There are a lot many things that happen. This is one common communication model that you see, and you might have seen through your studies also when you're doing graduation. There's a message and whatever he communicates, he finally sends a feedback of it. Now, for an example, to give a very common example, is it audible? I hope it's audible.
Yeah, it's getting, I do not know, maybe a particular position only, it's audible, otherwise it starts to crack and we lose you.
Is it fine now? I guess I'll hold it like this.
Yeah, maybe one constant position, I think, otherwise, sorry for.
Yeah, I'll try to do it. I'll try to do it.
Yeah.
So looking into this thing as a feedback, now whatever the person, the receiver receives the message or perceives it, that is what the code feedback is going to be. A very common example, a lot many times we have heard or seen in movies. People stare and we don't know where they're exactly staring at. And the front person may take it in a positive or negative way. If it's a positive way, definitely you might receive a smile back. If it's a negative way, definitely you'll be receiving a slap back. So the perceiving of the communication is the message is very important. So this is one. There are two barriers that can happen as of now it's happening, noise and the environment. These are the barriers that are not under your control, or you can control them to some other, media, or if you have any facility around. There are modes of communication, again, telephonic and face-to-face. As of now, what you're doing is almost telephonic, or you can say it is a modern era, an era of telephonic where you can see me and I'm communicating to you. Face-to-face is much more expected by everyone. When you talk on a phone, maybe you're not that connected because you're not having a look at that person, where the eye-to-eye contact is not there.
And then again, like, when you meet that person, there's the entire different scenario changes. It happens a lot many times with our nurses also. When we connect through you for a phone interview, you talk, either you're like, you're in middle of something or something XYZ. And when the moment you come back and approach us, we have a face-to-face interview, lot many things get clear. That is why, like, the communication, whenever it's face-to-face, it's really good. Basically, how do we do it? We greet the patient. Is it clear?
And you should be like a good listener, in fact. Confirm the better clarity, not be judgmental on the first time when you hear to a person or like whoever is communicating to you. Wear appropriate uniform, eye cards visible, have a favorable body language. Avoid using jargons and thank the person for listening to you as well as communicating back. This is quite crucial with our nursing people because the healthcare industry has said like at least 60 to 70% of communication is done by our nursing department, whether it's direct again or indirect patient care. So whenever we are face to face with the patient or the consultant or the other paramedical staff, we need to understand whom are we basically speaking and what are we speaking, what is our subject going to be, whether the person is the right person who's listening to us or not. Because we have endless complaints that come up wherein nurses are found talking about their personal lives or passing on comments like patient is drowsy, but he's still a good listener. Patient is listening to you, the relatives are listening to you. So all this matters. The important thing about here is body language. Now, not many people forget that body language is a part of communication. So the way you sit, the way you move, the way you talk to people, your eyes, where are they pointing, your hand, where are they exactly, all this matters. So the way you meet a patient, any kind of those things, that you're not basically communicating. And there's whenever you go to hospital or whenever you're going on roads also, there's something called a signage as hospital. A signage can be anywhere across. They are also a mode of communication. They try to tell you where emergency is, where is pharmacy, where is lab, where you go quickly. This is all part of your communication. So hospitals nowadays, this is the way you go. Very good. Those days are gone. Your entire hospital map is put up on the screen. There's a software that basically when you put in, you punch in your appointment number or whatever it is, it guides you to go where exactly you have to be going.
How it was Mitesh को बाहर निकाल दिया. So the teacher अब जरा वही problem है.
Gap in communication in healthcare, again, the purpose of communication needs to be understood where you're communicating, whom you're communicating. However, often internal and external. Is it clear now?
The last part was clear. I mean, we were getting to hear, but in between there was again some disturbance. I do not know what's the reason.
Now is it clear?
It's clear now. Now it's fairly okay.
I'll just try to maintain myself in this position and try to speak.
Yeah.
That would be exercise for me. Okay. So however, internal and external factors could lead to communication barriers. You need to understand whom are you communicating, or the person is dumb, deaf, what are his challenges, and a lot many times you don't understand. The language that he understands is again we need to understand whether he understands the language that you're speaking. I was here 8 years ago in Gujarat. I never understood Gujarati. And I was people speaking around me, and it was a foreign language for me, trust me. And it took a good amount of months to understand, okay, what are they speaking, whether they're speaking to me or someone else. And this does happen in nursing. People basically coming from South India. When two South Indians meet, there's a tendency of speaking Malayali or Kannada or Marathi or Tamil or Telugu. And then we put the front person in a big confusion. Okay, are they speaking about me? Are they speaking to each other? Are they speaking their own personal matter? What it is. So we need to avoid such things. Okay, we need to really avoid such things. We try to understand whichever local area we go, we employ ourselves. We need to get along to the local language as quick as possible. By now, I know 9 languages, so that's one of the greatest advantage why I get to do a lot of projects in my organization. I travel across a lot of times. even those areas which are areas not under my purview, but I travel because I get an advantage of the language. And like, I get along with my personal interpersonal communication skills. I get along with people. Sometimes it is a situation context where I like, the communication barrier could exist. It is also like, there are few lack of interest and motivation. I've seen training classes being like, conducted just soon after like, 3 to 4. Ideally, people say that this is the best time, but best time for whom? For the morning shift or the night shift or the evening shift is a question mark. If you're asking a morning person to attend the training, like, 3 to 4, you would say like, 8-6 hours of bang on, and now you're asking me to attend some training. And that if I say like communication, then he'll say, please go ahead. So he's completely in fatigue. So he's not the prior, like, he's not the participant. I'm basically looking where I want to communicate. Lack of interest. If the subject is not of my favor, I don't have any interest in the subject that I want to basically like, hear or communicate, again, I'm not going to show you good amount of interest, like, feedback or response back from me. And then whether it motivates the person or not is again an important factor. Language and linguistic barriers, I've already told about it, what it is going to be. And there are hospitals who have foreign patients, people coming from foreigners, and then we treat them in India. Especially we do have a lot of cancer patients coming from Africa, Nigeria and all. So we do find it difficult, but we try to get along them. We either use some of our nurses are smart enough. As I say, the modern nurses, they use Google Translator, try to like, communicate. They try to catch a few words like, welcoming, good morning, you had breakfast, whether there's pain, how are you feeling? They try to catch up and like, they try to speak back. And that's a good point that I see. Again, time constraint. If it's not good amount of time, you need to understand what are you speaking, what is the importance of it, and whether it's the right time like you're speaking to that person. If the front person is in some hurry, maybe you can ask him to like, connect to you back sometime later, and like, you can speak to him or her at that particular moment. But like, rushing through something that is very important is not a good sign. You can just hint at what you're basically going to speak, but then like, you need to understand the importance of the subject matter and then time factor at all. Inadequate documentation and knowledge, again, like, many times it happens with nurses, especially when it comes to medication errors. We need to be very precise in documentation, because depending on our documentation, there are many other things that are going to happen with the patient. I've seen this, like, when we go through the entire years of data, the amount of medication errors that happen and how much was the percentage that it comes under like 30-35 odd percentage falls only for documentation. I mean, it can be practice, it can be skill, it can be fatigue, it can be workload. There are endless, like, again, factors for it, why this happened. But documentation should be something like, all nurses should focus and ensure that it is done, and it is done at the patient bedside when that particular process, protocol or procedure that you're completing. Lack of interdepartmental and flow of information. I've spoken to the head. Okay, the head is not performing everything. There are like, in charges, supervisors, there are registered nurses who are like nursing aides who are doing the work. They've never been communicated. The flow is not there. Now, many times it happens like, sitting to a board meetings, people talk about cost saving, cost analysis and XYZ. But are we like, basically talking to the ground level staff? Because there is the thing where like, the communication has to happen. They are the people who are going to help us in like, understanding the system, understanding the gaps and like, fulfilling that. So communication should be like both the ways, from top to bottom and from bottom to up. As Arjit sir spoke about it, communication happens everywhere. Now, benefits of effective communication basically helps avoid conflict situations. Satisfied customers, you can just see a good communication, like a good nurse is a good communication. She always tend to like, keep her patients happy. No matter even she's attending the call bill 2 minutes later, but she's still able to do it. We also have good relationships, thrive on effective communications. We have clear communication that leads to clear understanding and expectations. Employees are more productive in an environment that fosters importance or effective communication. Better communication can lead to better outcome. Employees are more engaged in an environment that practices effective communication. There's something called as one-way communication.
If it happens, your employees are not like that. A month they'll say like, I'm stressed out. This guy doesn't listen to me, and he just keeps on like, bombarding every time he comes to this office. So an effective leader must have this. He must have two-way communication. He must allow or practice effective communication both the ways. Listen as well as even be heard at times. Some special situations, a few examples wherein there is positive, there is breaking of bad news, there is improvement of patient's condition, aggressive family, and patient family emergency disaster communication managing angry employee, confirmation of appointments and staff arguments. These are few role plays that I do when I go to respective units when I'm taking classes. We have this as role plays. How do you basically break a bad news, and how do you basically console, convince, or counsel the relative? How at the end of the day you make him okay, he's fine. Whatever we did was did for him in his benefit, and whatever the results were not under our control. So we have all this as a role play that we basically go into there will be a ceramic because they are best the doctor so mix along them. We try to give them a hint of everything. This is one protocol that I want to discuss. I mean, this might be better in other hospitals. One which we basically follow. Who is responsible to handle the bad news? It is not the nurses. But at the same time, I would like to tell, lot many times the relatives are counting on nurses. They ask the nurses, how is my patient doing? But the moment you come out to take some inventory, or the moment you come out to say you're just finishing your shift, they do ask you. I would suggest don't turn your back on them. Just tell them this is the thing that we are doing from morning till now. This is the present condition, or this is what has been planned and discussed with you by the doctor. If there is a sudden change, both the patient's prognosis is very good or his prognosis is very bad, don't jump to conclusion. It is not you who is going to jump to the conclusion. You have to understand what are the limits of what does your organization speak, what is the information that they give. Giving false hope can also put you in problems. There's a fair amount of preparation that has to be done. The doctor should be dedicate enough time. He should not be in a rush. Have a room where the serious conversation can happen. About the patient and relevant investigations, have sufficient knowledge about the patient for the plan, have experienced nurse along to help the patient deal with the emotions. Now comes the important part. Maybe the doctor is breaking the bad news. He's going to tell that, okay, we have done our best and we are not able to save him. And this is the time that we have. There is something called as an emotional factor, which are best handled by nurses. You can help a glass water tell that, okay, we have done everything. This is a time to let go. You have done your best to save him or her. You have given a shot. We have that is where nurses have to take care of you. I don't know that all the systems they do ask you to a record, video record can be done, video and audio record can be done as a safety of a documentation of it. Way to disclose the bad news, it should be disclosed in front of a comfortable, confidential room and in front of, not in front of other patients, corridors, or reception areas. Soon after the visit, the doctor sits over there, the relative comes, whoever is responsible. The entire scenario is been explained to them. And then further, if it has to be documented, doctor sometimes does a lot of diagram, tries to tell them everything. All this is placed in the patient file that tomorrow the patient relative might not say turn up and say that nothing is documented. How to break the bad news? Assess the patient knowledge about illness, knowing the background information gently but unambiguously break the bad news without medical jargons. Try to ensure that the language that you use is in a simple term. Try to tell them what are you going to do, what for an example, if you're going to put more, what is on chemo. If you're going to have them on stoma, try to tell them what is stoma. Give the risk as well as other factors that are going to come along with. What they have to do after this has to be explained. Not only doctors but nurses also have to do this. Not only one particular relative, maybe that particular relative who's taking care of us is not there. So identifying that particular relative to whom you're going to educate is also important. Lot many times we fail this, either like, we think, okay, just tell it once and the patient is going to get discharged, and you're wrong. You need to identify who is going to be with the patient after being discharged, after being the procedure. And then put forward. So breaking the bad news is a very difficult, very serious protocol that we need to understand, has to be done in a very subjective manner, as well as keeping in mind the emotion quotient of relatives, how are they going to perceive it, how are they going to react it. Sometimes they react very ferociously. They turn back, what are you saying? Literally, like morning he was fine, you just told me this, XYZ. Lot many things can happen, especially those hospitals where is there. You see the patient changing, the entire prognosis or the entire patient's condition changing within no time. We try to back it up from day one. So, and we are telling them constant phase, what is it is, whether it's in a iterating form, whether the patient is really improving. So in an onco center, it's not that important, but it's in multi-speciality, nurses have to be well equipped with this. And I would request not all your in charges and supervisors and nursing heads across, don't push your young nurses here. It is not their cup of tea, please. It's a request. Don't give them this. Maybe you can just ask them to stand by, observe it, absorb whatever they can, and then you can basically tell them what you would have done, how you should have corrected yourself, how basically we need to move in with it. That can be done, but don't just push in, okay, the patient is with you, you are going to go in. No, don't do that, please. This is when we all have to understand communication with relatives. Lot many times it's not the patient who's not happy with the services, it is the patient. It's this brain that you need to understand. It is this system that you need to basically win over, or you should have confidently move in. You all the relatives those who are going to come, including you. If I ask you to go to some police department and sit there for hours together, by the end of the day you're pissed off. You want to slap the or beat up the police person who's there, who's made you sat over there for the entire day. The same happens to the relative. He is not coming here, is not investing. He's going to put good amount of money. He might have left his kid home. He might have left his old parents home. He might have taken leaves from his work. His boss is really paying him everything from morning, asking for something. So he's obviously anxious, worried what is happening around. And for lot many people, this medical terms are like real challenge. They don't understand things. It's not, they don't experience this day to day. Okay, so nowadays we have educated clients coming, patients coming in, so it's quite okay. But please understand, not all relatives, not all patients are at the same intellectual level or the same language they understand. So obviously relative is going to be anxious, worried. You need to be polite, gain their confidence, just talk to them. Introduce yourself. This is what I would like to communicate today. And you can take you can have it as a key address to home. Every nurse has to go to each and every patient out there, or each and every doctor that comes to visit, round, or patients they have. Please introduce. The moment you introduce the relative, the patient has a name to call, rather than you be called by sister, brother, come here, a nurse. It sounds much more pleasant. It's a psychological effect. When you're called by your name, you basically want to be attentive. You go back, you go attend that patient. You can try this experiment at your places. When you're called by your name, you really feel good enough and you really want to go and attend. If you're not called by your name and still the call bell comes, you're definitely going to say, oh, this patient is a pain. And he keeps on calling there unnecessarily. You just change that. Here now I would request lot many nursing leaders. Nurses do have to get along with patient. They have to be good listeners. They have to try to connect a bit personal, but that personal thing has to be in a limit. They don't have to go and dial the problem. No, they have to understand they have to be attached to the patient, emotionally or communication. I do it whenever I go. I do tell patients, yeah, my mother underwent she was an onco patient. This is what we went through, and this is how we communicate much more effectively. Once you gain their confidence, if there's any mistake done by you, just politely say, okay, I'm sorry, I should have done this, I've done this. or like, I told you something that like, the figure, like values were changed and this is what the value is as of now. That has to be done. Keep them informed. Now there's an early morning round that happens. The nurse is there. There are doctors who come for rounds. They say CT is required, and after CT will decide the line of treatment. Now you understand, for you it's just a normal CT scan. For that relative, because since the doctor has communicated to him that after the CT to decide your treatment, line of treatment. The moment the CT happens or the CT is planned, when you're transferring the patient to CT, clearly tell him it is going to take 2 to 3 hours for the reporting to come back. You don't talk this sentence. The moment the CT is over, the patient is back in his ward. The very next 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the person comes and stands on the desk saying, what happened to the report? What about the report? Every 15 minutes, 5 minutes, he'll come and knock you. That might irritate you again. So you need to keep them informed. Lab reports, CT scans, doctors, visual times when they come to the doctor is unable to come back to contact him. This is the time, or this is the time that he's going to come, or this is the time that 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever TAT you have defined in a hospital, it's going to take so much of time. And the moment the reports arrive, if they are normal, just go and say they are like, the reports are under normal limits. The doctor or the medical officer or the whoever is there, attending doctor will come and talk to you on it. But as of now, this you should be like, okay, the reports are quite fine. If there is something that is abnormal, if there's some impression that has been given or there's some finding out that has come out, you just tell there's something wrong in the report, but I've found that he has asked you to do this, or the person can basically, he can the doctor is busy with some patient, he'll come and discuss the report with you. At least on a general term, on a very simpler, on a lighter mode, this can be shared with them. Never show that you're not aware about their patient. If you're treating their patient and you're going there, you need to understand. They will ask you 101 questions, and it is your right to answer every question answered by them. Now, when you do all this, you're quite open to the communication. What happens in the process? You have to keep on nurses. I've seen few nurses who are very smart enough. What they try to do is they involve. There's a new concept that has come in healthcare department that's called as patient centricity. They involve the patient and the relatives into the basic care of analyzing the patient. Whenever the drip set is about to get over, they ask to put the call bell. They ask them every 2 hours they try to have changed the position. This is how the smarter nurses are working, and it's really good. It's really good to see this part of concept coming in and putting all this. Educate them about the treatment options. As and if there's a bed sore, if the patient is prone to get a bed sore, diabetes ulcer or pressure ulcer, you need to educate. There's enough care for as a prophylactic for the bed sore, for DVT and XYZ. So you need to educate them on this. Keep them updated on the progress of care. Never call them by their bed names or diagnosis. Try to see the name of the patient. Try to call sir, ma'am, if nothing works on. Sir, ma'am, I have done this even with the villagers or patients who are uneducated. I just call them by sir, ma'am. That makes a lot of difference. Okay, they try to understand what it is very politely. Once you do this, trust me, if you if you are able to handle this part of person or this part of relative, your patient is going out with a positive feedback. Trust me on that. Moving further, another important aspect, communication with consultants that we do every day. You don't have to be scared. There are a lot many who basically say that nurses are the 80%, nurses and paramedics are the 80% of people who are delivering the healthcare across this country. They are happy that nurses are doing this. So you have to be part of now the stigma that has been going around, okay, I'm scared of this doctor, I'm I don't want to get along into this OT, this doctor. You need to understand, one dynamic over here. The same surgeon, the same doctor, when he's working with a closed loop in OT, cath lab, ER, ICUs, is quite familiar with the nurses. Why? They directly can communicate to him. Anything that is with the patient, they directly talk to him. Sir, the RBS is so much, sir, this is so much, sir, the BP is dropping, these are the lab reports. They directly talk to him. They are enough to communicate. You need to wish them. If you're a new nurse, introduce, okay, sir, my name is so and so, I'm been like posted here, I'm going to look after your patients, and your patients so and so are with me, and then go there. Now, even I was a nurse, we were like clearly told, I've been like, since working in Kelly, we were like 10, 12 patients, and we before rounds have to be well thorough with all the patient details. Last 24 hours, what has gone, number of episodes of vomiting if they are there, the urine output, if there's any event that has occurred, if the patient was sick, the medicines were given on time. All this has to be done. It's our job. You just can't sit back saying that, okay, this doctor is very arrogant, he just like, doesn't like me to be in his house. No, he is scared. He trusts you. He has a lot of trust in you, in nurses. It is just that they're scared because they are not there 24/7. It is we who nurses are there into 24/7. So we need to understand and be clear.
Mr. Bhaskar, we are losing your voice.
Yeah, now is it clear?
Yeah, we had lost in between a lot.
I am really sorry for that.
Yeah. But then please carry on, no problem.
Yeah. If there are any doubts, like, you have to clarify it during your rounds. Whenever they're coming in for rounds, they're giving ample time, this important time of theirs, you need to utilize it. Explain the problem there. Okay, if there's something with the drug, like, the brand of the drug, which has been written, he prescribes, or the drug that comes around, you can just tell over there. If there's something that the patient is not okay with mobilizing, if the patient is not like, quite like, basically to say, cooperative with you for some, like some of the other things, you need to inform that all during his rounds. Always be aware about the patients. As I said, in absence of medical officers or house officers or residents, you can do the emergency calling. Don't leave it, okay, I have to inform to my superior and my superior is going to call. No book of nursing or no book of any, like, any medical this has written that nurse can't like be directly approachable. I only see this practice in most of a Karnataka, like, Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh, you can say, or like, Max Delhi, where a smart nurses, like, nurses are very, like, upfrontly, they like, wish the doctor, they know the doctor by name, what are they doing exactly, and everything happens. But other parts of India do have to come up with this, directly start speaking to your consultants. If there's any mistake, say that I've done this, I'm sorry, and this medicine was not given, can I give it? That is patient outcome. So the best part is directly talk to them. Sir, I've done this is a mistake, or sorry, I wrongly informed you about the lab. Sorry, I have not performed what you had said, but this is the report that goes on. Directly do that. That is very important, please. Coming to the important part, and like, I hate this, but then directly talk or say that, okay, I have done this error, I'm sorry, and how do I improve it, or where is the scope of improvement? The nurse who is open enough in communicating this has definitely been taken positively, and the nurse has been ensured that she has been trained enough, and then it goes up. Giving feedback is again important. Being a nurse, you can give feedback. There are a lot many processes that have been implemented across your units, across your hospitals, and you are not okay because you are the person who's implementing it. You should be open enough to feedback towards a product, a process that has happened, because people who do this are like, people, the ownership who have been taken by process is like someone else who's sitting on the desk. But it comes when to implement, you should be like proactive. amount of thing that will go on. We were just till now, whatever I spoke was all on registered nurses or the staff nurses or the patient care nurses who are on the bedside. Now coming to some new in charges or like we call supervisors or nursing heads who are good leaders across, who are doing very good work across. To be a good leader, it also says clear communication. That is one factor that is required at any leader. So this is how important the communication, good communication for leadership is managed. There's a proverb by Winston Churchill. He says that the difference between mere management and leadership is communication. You might have done it. You might have shown your eyes. You might have written down. You might have yelled at someone and got your work done. But what is it that is not happening? Try to understand why it happened. Try to communicate very clearly what he wants from it, what has to be corrected, where he exactly has to work on, and that error doesn't happen again. So clear communication is always a key for a good leader. Trust me on this. Now we spoke a lot about communication. Okay, we spoke about a huge amount of communication, and now comes is, are you a good listener? No matter there's a good communicator sitting in front of you, but if you're not a good listener, then the entire work or the amount of communication that has been done all ends off. First, you have to be a good listener. Then only you can be a good communicator, and then only your interpersonal skills can develop or can be very good at level. But if you are not a good listener, many times it happens that I'm sitting at a regional level or sitting at a level, people call up from units and say they just talk about this, and I just listen to them. Sometimes listening helps. They just say sir, we wanted someone to listen to us. Thank you for listening, and the problem is solved. Part of this communication, you have to be able to listen. Not give that person all the person you listen to them, obviously 50% of the problem is solved. So I would suggest nurses across, and this good listener doesn't only apply for all the nursing leaders. It applies to our registered nurses, our young nurses who are there. When a patient is talking to you, all you have to do is just listen to him, because he might be struggling to get the bills, they might be annoyed with lots of things. Maybe his interpersonal relationship with his family is not good. So you have to be that good listener to them. You have to be just a year sometimes. All they want you to be is listening. So listening is a part of communication. So I would request all and across our nursing fraternity to be a good listeners. Now talking about interpersonal relationship, webinar because of the situations. Talking about interpersonal relationship, if you're taking my personal opinion, it is karma. The way, if you treat others the way you wanted to be treated. If you wanted to be treated good across your organization, across the people whom you know, you need to treat them good. It might be a housekeeping, it might be a nursing aide, it can be registered nurses, it can be your down subordinate, it can be people working across the organization. Sitting in a corporate and working in a corporate team, you have horizontal reporting, you have vertical reporting, what not reportings and what not. Yes, now. Hello.
Yeah. This section, can you please repeat, because we
yeah, I'll do it, Dr. Ajit. So I was speaking about interpersonal skills, it is all about how are you across your unit, or how are you across your wards, your peers and everything. It is, I basically would say interpersonal skills is only karma. Treat others the way you want to be treated. You need to treat people good and then expect from them. No matter it's a housekeeping, it's an attendant, it's XYZ, whoever it is. The way you treat is what you get back. So please understand, even the nurses who are there working at the bedside need to understand, if you treat your patient back, his time is there, his turn is there to treat you back. If you are not approachable, if you if you don't have good communication with him, you're not listening to him, definitely he'll not be happy with you, and he's going to give you back to it, either in a form of feedback, or he might unnecessarily keep on calling you, he might complain on you. This thing applies professionally as well as personally. If someone a lot many times people ask me how is that how is that you come across so many people, a lot of times when people are not able to speak to some XYZ units, they ask me to speak. It is only because when I went over there, I was part of them. I was not as a corporate employee. I was I went along with them, I told them, understood what is the concern. I spoke about them. I spoke, in fact, to some extent, being a good leader, to speak about their personal experiences, understood them, listened to them, and then I came back. So I go back, I need something. The moment I approach them, they're very open. Okay, what is that we can do for you? So this is how you need to be with your patients also. If you be the same to your patients, be a good listener, be communicate properly, give them enough time to express themselves, be kind, be polite to them. The day when you're with your workload, you're not able to reach their call bell within 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever time defined, you say, and you just go and say, I'm sorry, I was late. In fact, they'll say back to you, I know you're struggling today. Maybe the manpower is less. This is how it comes back to you. The day you help your peer understand, okay, you have difficult patients, let me help out with you. I have a lighter patients. My patients are most of they are discharged. If you don't go and help them out with something, the day when you are going through it, they'll come back to you and help you. You need to talk out it. You need to speak it out. Okay, fine, I'm not doing this. This is this. When you have your a bit of free time, you help out someone. It comes back to you in a form of development. You need to start doing it. Now, when I say interpersonal skills, you have ways, both the ways, dealing it in a positive way as well as negative way. There are people who might be very good to you on a front on your face, but might say something back to you on your back. But it doesn't mean that you go back and react. I mean, they're you might have gone through endless theories. But when it comes to interpersonal skills or theories, in masters, you might have studied the Paploma's interpersonal theory also is there, which says patients are there, they are in pain, they are in need. So it is the way you develop from the day one. The way you approach your pediatric patients, the way you approach a pediatric patient might be different. The way you approach a foreign patients, the way you approach a local patients is different. The way you approach a corporate patients, the way you approach a clean patient is different. Don't do that. Go there, be just you, and the way you want to be. You have to treat each and everyone across like that. Lot many times it doesn't happen. Basically peer, they are I see lot many times complaints do come up saying that two people are not getting well along, I'm changing their shifts. No, you need to make them sit down and understand their problems and work it out. This is something that I wanted to bring up here because most of our nurses need to understand this is the journey that they go through, or even I'm going through. From novice nurse to being an expert, there are various things that we we go through. And all this is only the way you deal with people, and it comes back to you. The way you communicate, that comes back to you. The way you handle people, it comes back to you. If you're a good listener, people do listen to you when you have ideas. If you're not listening to them, they will also not listen to you. So a journey of invoice to being an expert, or this is just a scale that says, you just go through this, being an invoice, being a beginner, being a competent, being a proficient, then an expert. It takes good amount of energy, a good amount of expertise, good amount of time, good amount of experience, good amount of mingling across, good amount of talking to people, understanding from experiences, knowing through how everything. So all this requires good amount of communication skill and interpersonal relationship. You have good amount of, you have good interpersonal skills. Trust me, you'll just start the success will just come to you. Now, don't you need to understand when you have good interpersonal skills, you also need to understand you don't take advantage of it. At the same time, you're helping others to understand where to work into their interpersonal skills. Just because you have good interpersonal skills doesn't mean that others are not good as you are. Sometimes you need to help them understand they might be having some physical ideas that you need to work on with. So most of the time, the in charges and everyone has to do this. When you have good communication skills and you have good interpersonal relationships with your peers and your subordinates and your colleagues, the trust cycle basically is formed. And once the trust cycle is formed, trust me, there is no stopping. The team definitely will achieve the goals. There'll be a very cohesive environment that basically goes on. And this cycle is basically not said by me. This is done by a lot many researchers. You find a purpose, you find a belief, belongingness, something. Here with me, with the team is so supportive. I want to do something here, not somewhere else. So this is the trust cycle that they have developed over a period of time. And this is not 1 day, 2 day or 1 night, 2 night thing. It takes enough amount of time. You need to invest enough time in this to build up this, to sharpen your skills, to sharpen your asks on your interpersonal skills. You might have rough days, you might have good days, you might have easy days, give up, because the key to good leader is just good communication skills and good interpersonal relationships among your team members. Once you have the trust cycle in place, the amount of trust cycle in your group, it basically has less gossip, better motivation, high productivity, increased staff loyalty, and lower staff. Once this is there, you might have people, you can see just people coming around ventilating their frustrations, solve troublesome problems, cities. I'm talking about the smaller cities. I go there and I'm really happy because people ventilate. They come out and they talk. Okay, I was not good with my wife today. We had a, and the moment that is there, the entire scenario changes. They give him enough of time. They give him patients who are not good enough. The moment the nurse comes and says no, I did not sleep enough. I have a headache, or I'm having a panic attack, or I'm having my migraine is back today. I've seen in charges who say, okay, you take only 2 patients today, let me handle it. And this is done in a smaller cities wherein the communication, the interpersonal are so I really get impressed. But when I come back to the larger cities, somewhere we fail to do this. Maybe our day-to-day life or the culture that has been. But trust me, if we do this, have good communication skills, and we have good interpersonal skills among us, maybe there's huge amount of things that we can turn over. For an example, it's been 8 years here. Initially 6 years, I fought a lot to get things done. And last 2 years, we could have around 3 state level workshops, 2 state level conferences, 2 national level conferences. We introduced CCNS, we introduced INS. So a whole lot of bunch of things have been done just with having good communication, breaking the barriers, going and speaking to people, telling them, okay, we need to have a platform. So this is what I could do. I could just let go everything, just be a person to person, have a person to person approach. And that basically has helped me to and that is why I'm being provided this platform to speak to you guys, what it basically helped me to be a good leader in Gujarat today. I would like to say thank you and take care and stay safe. This is my message. There's a lot to speak on communication. Maybe I did not go into the practical aspects of this, but keeping in mind the time constraint and the media which we are basically speaking through is what I just wanted to share the good experiences or the practical issues that I see across, and how we can basically come out with having just good communication skills and improving our interpersonal relationship across.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhaskar, for, irrespective of where we lost you in between because of the technical glitches, but then it has been very, very comprehensive. I would say it's touched upon the most important parameters, is knowing the gaps in communication, and then the benefits of communication. A good communication is engagement. We say that if the person is engaged, if you are in the moment, if you're communicating well, then you empathize with the other person, then you understand where the other person is coming from, what is he or she looking from this conversation, and there is a clarity of message. clarity of communication from there. Uh, Different protocols of how to break bad news, how to talk to relatives, how to communicate with consultants. You said that, you know, it's a dreaded thing for many of the nurses to
Uh,
speak up to.
I came in Gujarat, and like, I had this, experience. People never spoke up. I mean, they had a huge level of respect to all the doctors here. I mean, basically, it follows even in Rajasthan as well as, and like, other parts of Madhya Pradesh and all. They don't go and speak to consultants, and the consultants at the same time, like, wanting to speak to people around and discuss things around. So I broke this silence, and I just went and started to speak to my intensivist in doing, like, wound nurses, and like, having formed an IV team, a separate group for bedsore, following up, and I understood, like, we never did this. A lot many times when I wanted to collect feedback to, like, appreciate nurses, the doctor, like, used to, like, literally tell the nurse who's short, who's, like, fair, who's dark, and who's a South Indian, who has a long tail. I said, like, they don't know my nurses, and how will I do something with this? That is when I started to say, the first thing that you do seeing a doctor is, like, introduce yourself. Don't do anything else, and just say, like, how was your day, sir? Like, how was it been? It's been a while, you're not into our hospitals. So your patient is in this XYZ room, and this is the nurse who's been allotted. No random who it was. We started to talk them freely. We even, like, went a step ahead and started to involve them into our trainings. That was not happening. And trust me, today, whenever they're, like, protocols done, whenever they're, like, things that they decide they want to have CMAs and all, they happily invite us to be a part of it. And they want somewhere, like, a few nurses to be always a part of the audience. They want question and answers coming from even from nurses. So it was really good. I mean, to, like, break the silence and get along. It was just about breaking the community, like, barrier and speaking. That's it. As you initially said, Dr. Arjit said, like, words have a lot of power, and the way you communicate is really matters. So this basically helped. You want to take the questions? There is one question, I guess.
Yeah, there is one more. And then, I mean, I was just saying that the other part that you also mentioned is about it's how you communicate, but then how you receive information. Being a good listener, being a very, very patient listener is also, because many a times we, even before we completely listen, we tend to reply because our mind starts to work that what should be the response of this. Even, we get ready to reply immediately because
Yeah,
we seem to be vocal.
this helped, like, we had our CEO who's always used to, like, tell us, till 2:30, no coming down, Bhaskar, you need to be on the floors. And this is my early days. I understood the meaning why he used to say this. You be at the ground level and you understand all the problems. You are there as a solution because you know all about most of the processes. You're well thorough with them. You stand there, you talk to your nurses, and not just, like, talk about your patient. Just say, like, how is everything at home? How is, like, your family doing? Like, you are not well, you are on your vacation. How was your vacation? Was the place good enough? Can I visit with my family? It is a part of communication. I'm just breaking the ice over there. And that is what I do. And they even understand when they want to talk to me, what is the right time to talk. And most of the times, I used to, like, sign up the leave letters, the complaints, everything. It was done on the ground level. Nothing came to the office at all. They know that I was easy approachable. And whenever they called me, I never, like, shut them down. I used to at least listen to them and then escalate the person who was to, like, taking care of this problem, and go back to them when the problem is over. Call them and say, okay, is the staff come? Are you relieved? Are you reached the hostel? Did the transportation was available? If they say there was no food, okay, I, like, try to arrange some food or something or the other. So it is not that you just listen and finish it off. You go back and give them, okay, is it done? Just have a correct check on it. Or a lot many times they itself call me and say, okay, sir, thank you. The food has come, or the staff has been come, and then, like, I'm relieving. Thanks for it. All this is done. And that is how, like, last 4 months we are taking COVID patients. At the same time, we are taking normal patients, doing cath lab procedures, and, like, trying to get some OT procedures done. It was really, like, the team approach. People, like, the moment the batch completed its first morning duty, they went back and said, sir, we all safe. Today we had no glitches. It was put in the group. With the entire 6 hours of duty was really good. We were given good amount of juices and everything to hydrate. PPEs were on time, scrubs were on time. They put it up front. Patient feedback was this and everything. I mean, that is the way I kept it open. Just listen to them. That is the best part. You don't have to always, like, interact and, like, like, intervene every time. Sometimes you're just listening. You understand the huge amount of problems. You can just correct your processes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And coming to interpersonal skills, I mean, like, Dr. Rajit and me have met this twice, but I guess we have spoken a lot about doing things in nursing, and not only nursing, in like, in fact, about the whole region, how it goes, how do we change things in Gujarat and Rajasthan. It's not only Dr. Rajit. I know most of the Polymed people, even our Pandit sir, who's there. Yeah, Pandita sir. I mean, like, he was in touch. He always invited, like, whenever I was being in Jaipur, he was like, let us catch up, like, let us like meet. I mean, it's when you meet, we speak, it's about the way you take people, you allow yourself free enough. You trust me, your like interpersonal skill allows you to grow in the industry.
Absolutely.
There's one question that is put up line, how do you deal with your aggressive patient? Yeah. You should be happy that the patient is aggressive because he's basically expressing what he feels. Okay. Now there's like, lot many time it is like, hospitals do have a set protocols like code violet or code gray. The violet is for the patient is aggressive. If the code is gray is for basically patient who's relatives who are aggressive. You have a set of member of committee coming. But since being nurses on the ground, it is always nurses who tackle, like, have to tackle the first phase of this. Be polite. Don't reply anything absurd or like, any wrong words. Do not use any wrong sentences or there. Lot many times nurses just break it out and they like, say something or the other, it just worsens it. He is just expressing his agony and he has the right to do it. He has lost something. He is here. Please understand, hospital, police station, your graveyard is not a place of investment. It's a place where everyone comes and just loses. We all wish that everyone has a good health, but since one or the other reasons, like, we fall ill, we have to come. It's a dynamic that we grow across like an entire lifespan. Everyone loses over here. No one is come here for a joyride. So they do express the aggressive. You have to stay calm. You try to like, convince him, console him. You can just hand a glass of water sometimes, make them sit. The first thing you do is take them to a silent place. Say a place where it is like, a cabin or like, somewhere like, a patient bed itself. Don't allow it to happen publicly, because one person gets aggressive and then there's next 2, 3, 4, 5 people who have not expressed till today, they start expressing and then it turns to be a mob. Then isolate the person, take him separately, try to listen to him, don't intervene, understand his concern, what it is. If you are in a capacity of solving it, good. If not, give him a glass of water, someone stay there, don't just walk away from there, someone stay there. Go and like, call your seniors who is there on the duty or like, whoever is there, call them, let them take a call. But at the same time, you need to ensure that someone is reassuring them. Keep on like, reassuring them, keep on ensuring that they're in good hands. We could do whatever best we could do. Okay, and then like, at the same time, the patient care should not be hampered. As I told you earlier also, it is that patient's brain that you have to like, win. The first thing in the hospital is the patient has nothing to do with a special category or a semi-deluxe or it's a suit room. He knows that he is going to be operated. He's undergoing to go the same amount of pain, no matter he's in a general ward or is in a suit room. It is a relative that basically looks for the comfort of the patient because he wants to give the best to his near and dear ones. So the moment he does that, he goes there, he expects things. So you need to understand, being a nurse is a thankless job, one. Being in service industry is a thankless job. No, you can't satisfy all 100% patients. Sometimes you don't have to do anything and a patient is still happy. Sometimes you break in and out, you like, completely screw yourself, you like, from blood to swallow, from sweat to blood, but the patient is not happy at all. No, he comes up with one or the other complaint. So it is the nature of that particular person. You need to understand that. So that is why I said your interpersonal skills should be at the topmost level. And here I request nursing leaders, nursing in charges, when you're assigning your patients, please understand the capacity of that person who is with you, who the number of nurses who are with you on the duty. The right person should be assigned to a right particular, whether like, I come across many times it is that females get too emotional. I've seen at the same time, some females are way emotionally strong. They don't express at all. They have this reassuring face almost all the time. Even they're like, they feel that sorrow and everything from within, they don't come up. There are few nurses who like, tend to break down. So you need to understand which patient has to be allotted to whom. that has to be the first responsibility of the nurse in charge in the morning. If you do that, then that reinforces the day also. But if you are giving is difficult. And even though I do understand now, someone might say again, like, sir, workload hota hai, there's too much amount of nutrition. The moment you see that the patient is getting a bit aggressive, understand the symptoms, go and stand there. The first thing I do, and then take a quick round of your patient. Just go say hi, hello, how are you, good morning, what you had for breakfast, what was like, how was your sleep, you had a peaceful sleep. And if it's like, sometimes I even go in, like, I've seen people like, asking, so what was it yesterday night you dream of? I have a good nurse, I don't want to name here, she's real good, like, a mentor to me. In fact, she has taught me how to take rounds, patient rounds, in fact. So she used to ask this, okay, and like, I mean, what was that you dream about yesterday? So she tried to recollect how is the mood of the patient. The dream basically tells how the patient woke up in the morning. So she basically at the end of the day, by leaving the shift, she's like, start, like, you can dream about something that makes you happy and go. So she was trying to like, put a positive reinforcement. She was a, I mean, good leader. I mean, she's, I mean, with the amount of experience she has and everything, I really respect her till today. Taught me this, sir. The reason behind asking is he has not slept. Definitely he has woke up thrice or thrice over, and he might be like, irritated, disturbed, or that bad dream might be like emotionally hurting him. So that is why I tried to understand what it is, how my day is going to go. And I never like, thought of this at all. I never had any idea of this. Why would a dream, like, make any change in her duty? But it did. And she was like, I never had any complaints from her. Trust me. When I say like aggressive patients come back, please stick to this. So isolate the person, reinsure, give him a glass of water, try to understand his concerns. If it is in your defined frame, you are privileged to take that call. I mean, solve that complaint. If not, then inform your seniors and try to understand that the problem is solved at the end. Don't leave it there. I've seen this a lot many times. The nurses just pop them off. No, it is not us. Go to the billing. Go there. Go here. No. Understand if they have any billing concerns, ask what exactly concern is it. Was it the room rent, whether it is this XYZ medicine, what it is. Try to speak to the billing person on the phone. The patient relative here has a billing concern and this is the exact point. So how do I basically address? A lot many times the nurse picks up the call. Okay, where are you? There's a patient who is having a billing concern. Please come and talk to them. The billing person might be like, doing n number of things he has to do. And he might be solving the issues in like, billing concerns, like a lot many times billing concerns. By the time he comes, the relative is still more aggressive. So the complaint from 1 starts to lead to 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5. Maybe the day 1, then he complimented for your food. On the day 5, he said your food is also pathetic. So I always say your discharge process is one thing that has to start. And I whenever I go to like, start a new unit, I tell them your discharge process starts on a day of admission. You need to plan your discharges. So everything flushes. The moment you see symptoms of patient getting bad or relative getting aggressive with some concerns, keep everything apart and try to solve it, is what I try to say.
Golden words, actually, Mr. Bhaskar. I think the experience is coming through, and I think all the participants are getting benefited. So since you have actually spoken about such an important area today, and it's inbuilt into the day-to-day work of a nurse. So do you see that there is room for improvement in the training process itself? That, like, for example, situation-based learning, understanding the emotional quotient of nurses, their temperaments, etc.
Yeah, I mean, modern nurses are quite, in fact, like, quite should be happy, because nowadays there's a lot many counselors and everything in lot many hospitals wherein nurses are pushed for counseling and all. I mean, this happens, but like, trust me something, it comes through like my experience. Even if I counsel you, even if I ask a role play or like, I do some workshop stimulation to understand this particular part, communication has emotional quotient that is attached. Some people get into that emotion, but they're not able to express. Some people have the fear of expressing. Some people express way too much. So the situation demands, you know, need to understand the situation demands, and the person who is in front of you, the patient, the relative, or the doctor, or whoever is there who is receiving this, is a variable, and he will not be the same. He will not be the same. He can change. He can, I mean, because it's a patient, it's a different thing. It's a relative, it's a different thing. It's a doctor, it's a different thing. The IQ of that person, the interest of the person. Doctor will never be happy to listen to the patient problems on a billing. He said, it's nothing to do with me. If there's anything clinically, please tell me. It is billing, please call billing, please solve it. So you need to understand whom are you talking, one, what are you talking to, whether are you talking to the right person to get a proper feedback, and then you can communicate back to the relative. If it's a patient problem, is talking about billing, and you're calling a patient care coordinator, you're calling a nursing head, what is a nursing head going to do? She's going to take enough time to come to that. And it goes to, like, you know, by the time the nursing head calls the billing person, it goes to problem 3. He feels he's been tossed. He feels he's not been listened. He feels he's not been attentive. I mean, no, he's not been attended. So obviously it's going to go from, like, you know, bad to worse. That's why I say, see the problem, cut the problem there itself. Maybe it will solve very soon at a very minimal cost. There's something called as, like, you know, we call this as service recovery. The term in operation is used called as service recovery. The lower the service recovery, that means the operation in that operational functions in that hospital are very good, because service recovery is all about, like, you know, getting your reassuring your patient back from something he's not happy with. So I would like to tell, because most of our nurses are not given these terms, or these terms might be new for nursing, since that I give active enough time in operations also. I have come to understand why service recovery and why nurses are the factor, one of the factors where the service recovery is high, or the time spent for service recovery is high. Day one, understand your nature of your patient. If it's too, never say, like, you know, I've heard these words also, toxic patients, demanding patients. It is nothing that he's just being more conscious. He's scared. You need to win his confidence. You need to tell him, don't be scared. You're doing the normal thing what a human being does. It's just that you're scared. You need to understand, gain his confidence there. And maybe, like, you know, you cut that problem there and there itself, definitely will help. Isolate, reassure, call the person. If it's not in your purview, try to finish it off there. Don't stretch it. I'll not do it. It's not my work. It's billing's work. No. Understand what exactly in billing, and try to talk to the billing person on that particular point. Room rent, lab reports, pharmacy, or, like, you know, OT charges, whatever it is. If whatever you can understand, make him understand, and make him understand. Or, like, through phone, try to connect. I don't see this also happening. The nurses' phone, the telephones that are kept in nursing department, like in stations, are not only for nurses. It can be communicated to anywhere. You pick up a call the billing person. If he says that I'm not able to come, give that phone to that particular person, connect them. Simple thing. I don't understand, like, you know, why is it, like, you know, it is considered, like, you know, I don't see it in the IC practices, infection control practices, that phone should not be given to a relative. Utilize the resources that are there. That's what I request to the nurses. You need to utilize.
Yeah, I mean, when you see an opportunity, the first place to douse the fire, let it not snowball.
Yeah,
Let it not snowball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure. In fact, you know, you taking up the queries also, questions towards the end. I think, I mean, if given a choice, we'll continue to listen to you. But then we have a constraint of time, so we'll wrap it up for now. My heartfelt thanks to you for taking out time for this session. This is very important. And over the last couple of months, we have been hearing a lot of therapy-related sessions, and the COVID and the negativities around. But here was something which is very, very different, and you know, a large part of it generally goes unaddressed. So, you know, thanks for taking it up and spreading the awareness around this. And I'm sure that during the course of time, we'll be able to follow up on this more aggressively, and maybe help some of the participants who reach out to us or to you through various modes, emails, chats, etc.
Yeah, they can just, like, you know, they can type in my name. I can available on Facebook. I'm available on other things. If there's any query, anything, anyone whom I can help, I'm like more glad to do that. And maybe I should, like, thank Polymed first of all, and then, like, thank Mitesh and Dr. Rajit for giving this platform to speak to all. And also to all 132 participants who are there patiently listening to me. Really thank. I mean, like, basically you can go back, please implement this. And don't just keep it to spread the word. I mean, like, it basically helps out for smoother functioning. And again, like, thank you all the nurses and paramedics across and the police people around the country.